welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me today. So let's talk some NBA, shall we? So right now we know it's downtime in the NBA. The draft is over. The season's over. We just had summer league, so not a whole lot going on right now. And as such, I know that the NBA is probably trying to find some storylines so that they can push and stay in the forefront of sports consciousness in America, especially with football season starting up now with training camps going on and getting ready to start college in about a month here and the NFL in just about 5 weeks. I think we got the NFL Hall of Fame game next week. But the point is, the NBA wants to remain relevant, and the NBA being the social media league that it is and the league that props up star players the way it does, the star players are going to speak and they are going to demand attention with certain things they say and do. And with that, I come to one of the biggest names in social media in the NBA, and that's Draymond Green. Why? Draymond Green is a freaking genius. He really is. Either he's a genius or he's been smart enough to put geniuses around him. But why do I say that? Because Draymond Green, like I said, he probably realizes that right now is a slow time in the NBA. So what did he do? The other night, he put out some, I'll just say, interesting tweets, to say the least. And I'm going to read them to you, and you can see them here on the screen if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio version, I'm going to read them to you. But after I go ahead and give you that, we're going to talk about it like we always do. All right. Tweet number one. This is from Sunday night, July 24th. Draymond says, question, when they be comparing errors, are they taking into consideration the drastic differences in styles of play? Regardless of the answer, it's very dumb to compare one era to the next era. Now, let's keep that in mind. And I'm going to read it again. It's very dumb to compare one era to the next era. Okay. Here's the next tweet. I'm watching the 98 Bulls versus Utah in the finals. I can't help but notice our 2017 team would have beaten these Bulls by a dub and these Jazz by 40 if they're going to play these brands of basketball. And that's why it's dumb to compare eras. I'm a little confused here, but we'll get to that. Here's Draymond's third tweet. Learn to appreciate things for what they are. Analyze the game and stop the unnecessary debating. Yours truly, the new media. Now, you guys already know how I feel about this new media, old media thing, so I'm not even going to get into that. But that's how he signed the tweet. Here's the next tweet. 96 Bulls, 98 Bulls. I stand on it. Okay. So what Draymond is saying here, I guess he found on the game somewhere, whether it's on YouTube or the NBA channel or what, he found the 98 Bulls in the finals against the Utah Jazz. Now, I know that a lot of younger fans today probably wouldn't appreciate those games. There were some really low-scoring matchups in there, and those were two of the best defensive teams in the league. Yes, back then, if you really played defense, you didn't get a lot of high-scoring games. But anyway, that's a different story. But what I find interesting, just to start, he opens up his tweeting by saying it's dumb to compare eras. And that's cool. I kind of agree with that. But, with the nature of sports media and sports talk the way it is today, you have to compare eras because you constantly get modern players being compared to the players that came before them in terms of what they're accomplishing, what they can do, their physical stature, their physical abilities, their abilities to play whatever game it is they play. So Draymond says it's very dumb to compare one era to the next era. But then he goes in the very next tweet and does exactly that by saying that his 2017 team, the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, could beat the 98 Bulls. So, Draymond, I'm confused here. It's dumb to compare eras, but you go and you do just that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, let's move on. Then he says, learn to appreciate things for what they are, analyze the game, and stop the unnecessary debating. Now, I got no problem with that statement, except for, and this is something I've talked about before. Now, let me make it clear here. Let me jump in and make it clear. I don't listen to every Draymond Green podcast, but I have listened to some of them. And when he says analyze the game, I'm wondering, who are you talking to about analyzing the game? On your platform, you don't do a lot of analyzing the game. You talk about things you feel, things that happen maybe in the game, but you don't analyze the game. You don't break it down. You don't give it to your listeners and your viewers to really show them and help them understand, right? You talk about the business aspect and your feelings on that and and new media versus old media, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think you do a lot of analyzing of the game. But okay, fine. Learn to appreciate things for what they are, analyze the game, stop the unnecessary debating. What you're doing right now, Draymond, is feeding into the debate, which we're going to get to in a second. You're feeding into the debate when you say that your 2017 Warriors team could beat both of these. You feel you could beat the Bulls by 20 and you feel that you could beat the Jazz by 40. So this is why I say Draymond's a genius, because I think he or whoever his team is knows exactly what this is going to do. It's going to grab attention. It's going to foster discussion. It's going to keep him, the Golden State Warriors, and the NBA in the spotlight at a down time during their offseason. Brilliant move. 96 Bulls, 98 Bulls. I stand on it. In case you didn't know, that is the one of Draymond's taglines. When you say something, you got to stand on that, meaning you have to stand by the statements that you make. Okay, cool. You feel you could beat 96 Bulls and 98 Bulls? Yeah, okay. All right. So let's get to that, right? Where do I want to go with this first? So the first thing I want to say about it is the 96 or 98 Bulls. So basically those second three-peat Bulls, if you line them up, in my estimation, against these Golden State Warriors, even with Kevin Durant, I think the Bulls beat them. Okay. So the simplest thing is this, right? There is empirical evidence, right? What do I mean by empirical evidence? That's the evidence based on what we see and physically experience with our senses, right? What we see, what we hear, what we witness, what we smell, etc. The physical evidence, the empirical. The empirical evidence is this. Golden State has lost twice in the finals, right? They're 4-2 in the finals, this iteration of the Warriors. Michael Jordan's Bulls were 6-0. Now, I'm not the guy who's lazy in terms of my argument. 6-0, 6 MVPs. That's not me, okay? But at the end of the day, why I'm bringing this up, the empirical evidence is that there is no indication we have that Michael Jordan could have lost in the finals. Why? Because it never happened. There is no evidence that Michael Jordan and those Bulls could lose in the finals. Why? Because it never happened. So with that, it's not only that they never lost in the finals, they were never even taken to a game 7 in the finals. That, to me, number one, is obviously testament to Michael's greatness. Number two, it's testament to Phil Jackson's greatness in terms of his ability to X's and O's and make adjustments and really make timely adjustments and lead the team in the way that a head coach can and manage the game and all those important items, right? And three, it's a testament to the fact that the team was laid out so perfectly that its matchups offensively or defensively were just so problematic to everyone else they played. So the fact that, again, they were 6-0, the fact that they had outstanding coaching, and the fact that they made tremendous adjustments, and of course the fact that the way their roster was laid out perfectly matched just about everyone they played, to me says that they're not losing in the finals. They're just not. Now, let's actually look at this, okay? So we know those 2017 Warriors were amazing. I think they only lost one game through their entire finals, their entire playoff run, which really, really phenomenal. And you look at it, one of the great rosters. So you have obviously Steph Curry, you have Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant. Can't remember who the fifth was, who was playing center on that team. But at that point, with that type of lineup in the first four, does it really matter? But the point I'm trying to make is now you take these Bulls, right? And I think the first thing you need to do, even before I take the Bulls, is you got to ask the question of what rules are they playing under? Are they playing under modern rules? Or are they playing under the rules of the 96 98 Bulls or some amalgam of the middle, right? But anyway, you take the Bulls and you have Ron Harper, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc. Tony Kukoc, I think, was 6-man. So Dennis Rodman, Luke Longley. Okay, cool. Here's my thing. Golden State was so incredibly dangerous, obviously, because the way they can spread you out offensively and the way they can shoot the ball. And they were also an outstanding defensive team. But being able to spread you out, shoot the ball, the way they were able to operate on offense, the problem is this: Golden State has never seen a team that can defend on the perimeter the way those Bulls could. So what you do, you look at the matchups now. Obviously, Michael Jordan is the greatest two-way player who's ever played. That's a fact, not my opinion. That is a fact. And we can have that discussion another time, but that is a fact based on everything that he did. So um, you put Ron Harper on Steph Curry, you put Michael Jordan on Klay Thompson, you put Scottie Pippen on Kevin Durant as the matchup. And that right there really, I'm not going to say it shuts down, but it really makes it a lot more difficult for Golden State to do what they were able to do in terms of running their offense, in terms of dominating, in terms of really spreading you out and getting a lot of the buckets that they got, right? So here's my key on the defensive side of that. Michael Jordan on Klay Thompson. Now, Klay Thompson, we know, is one of the greatest catch and shoot players of all time. He's one of the best spot up shooters of all time. We know that, but he's not as great being forced to put the ball on the floor. Michael Jordan would be able to force the ball out of Klay Thompson's hands as a defender, and it would likely end up either with Steph or with KD. Now, Ron Harper's size and length would give Steph tons of problems. Okay, you got that. And then, of course, Scottie Pippen is uniquely physically made to guard a guy like KD in terms of his tremendous wingspan, his length, his defensive acumen. And if need be, these Bulls, because of their ability, their length, their quickness on the perimeter, they are one of the very few teams, if not the only team, that would be in a position where they can actually get to Kevin Durant in terms of double teaming to make things difficult, or Steph Curry to try and get the ball out of his hands and recover to stop a guy like Klay if he catches it. That is the amazing thing. And I don't think the Warriors would have ever seen anything like that, and it would have given them fits. Now you look at Draymond Green. He's generally considered an all-time great defender. I don't know how great of a defender he is, because in this era, it's a totally different thing. They say he can defend bigs, he can defend guards, but he couldn't have defended bigs back in that era, right? 96 through 98, that totally different thing. But one of the things that makes Draymond Green special is his ability to rebound the basketball, take it off the glass, get going on the break, initiate offense. Dennis Rodman takes a lot of that away from him. Dennis Rodman dominates the glass, and he wouldn't allow Draymond to do all the things that Draymond likes to do in terms of he wouldn't allow him into the post. He would make it a lot tougher for him to initiate offense. So Dennis Rodman would shut down Draymond Green and take away so much of what Draymond wants to be able to do. So that becomes problematic right there. And as I mentioned, you have a guy like Pippen who's uniquely physically gifted in terms of guarding a guy like Kevin Durant. Now, I don't know that he's going to be able to shut Kevin Durant down, but those 30 and 40-point games that Durant could get with ease, they're not happening against Pippen, right? Ron Harper, his size, his length, his physicality would give Steph Curry fits. Now, the plus with Steph Curry, and this is always something I've said, is that his ability to shoot from range pretty much anywhere within half court puts stresses on defenses that defenses in basketball were not made to have faced, right? So the Bulls probably would have to do some serious adjustment to that. But with that said, now you also look at the Bulls' ability to hound a player for 94 feet. The how much harder Steph Curry would have to work to get shots would make it a lot tougher for him to really get going, and for him to be able to go bombs away and get nuclear hot and really give you those problems that his unique skill set offers. So at the end of the day, I think there's no way, because again, there's no evidence that the Bulls could have lost in the finals, because it simply never happened. There's not even evidence that the Bulls could get to 7 games in the finals, because it simply never happened. But from a basketball standpoint, looking at what the Bulls offer defensively, the Warriors have never seen anything like that in terms of such an elite perimeter defensive team. So much of what makes them special, I'm not going to say is going to get taken away, but I will say so much of what makes them special would get slowed down a lot, and I doubt that they can deal with that. And at the end of the day, Klay Thompson, their best man-on defender on the perimeter, well, we know he's got no chance against Michael Jordan at that point. Not a 96 Jordan, not a 98 Jordan. No chance whatsoever. What do you do there? Iguodala? Maybe. No, Iguodala was gone by then. So what do you really do? There's no chance to stop a Michael Jordan at that point, right? A lot of people don't realize this. A younger Ron Harper was a really good scorer in the NBA, and that's against physical quality perimeter defense on the whole in the league. So you look at that, obviously we know what Scottie Pippen can do. So I think the Scottie Pippen-Kevin Durant matchup is, I'm not going to say it's a wash, but I am going to say that it's a situation where KD gets slowed down. And Scotty is a guy that's used to getting his where he can get it. There's no pressure for him to be the elite scorer. He can score. We know that. We saw it. But there's no pressure for him to be the quote unquote second guy. But it's so good the way that that triangle worked in terms of getting guys different shots. And Steve Kerr knows this as the coach of the Warriors and as being a Bull at that time. And of course, as playing with Coach Pop. And that's one thing I think the Warriors don't maybe get enough credit for is Steve Kerr as a head coach, the adjustments that he makes and the style of offense that he runs, which is basically an amalgam of the triangle offense from Phil Jackson, and then a lot of the motion concepts that Pop uses. So that's really in a league that's so pick and roll heavy and so ISO heavy. It's amazing that Steve Kerr has gotten the Golden State Warriors to so well buy into the 5-man basketball, the moving, the cutting, all of that stuff, and that's why they're so difficult to beat. But with that said, I just there's no way that I agree with Draymond that they're beating the Bulls now. I don't think that's really the point. I got into the breakdown of it on the somewhat on the X's and O's side, but again, I really don't think that's the point. Back to the original premise here, Draymond's a freaking genius because Draymond just had me sit here for 15 minutes and talk to y'all about what he said, regardless of how nonsensical it is. So Draymond, you get applause. I definitely give you applause. That was awesome. You did your thing there. You got me talking about it. I'm sure you got a lot of other people talking about it. I've heard people on the different sports talk shows talking about it. So you have achieved your goal. Thank you for giving me a little bit of extra content today. That's awesome. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got on this topic. Definitely was interesting. Definitely wanted to hop in and give you guys my thoughts on that. So if you enjoyed the show, please go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, click that notification bell, and the biggest thing, if you want the podcast on the audio version, we're available pretty much anywhere you get your audio podcast. And if you know people who love good sports talk and don't want to hear the same old parroting that you hear all over the sports networks, go ahead, share this podcast with them. Thanks so much, and I'm out. Peace.